In 2026, AI models like ChatGPT are writing code, passing exams, and reshaping entire industries. But almost nobody knows the name of the man who invented it. Not Sam Altman, not Elon Musk. The father of artificial intelligence died alone in 1954, eating an apple laced with cyanide. His name was Alan Turing. He built the first true computer. He cracked Nazi Germany's unbreakable code. He shortened World War II by 2 years and saved 14 million lives. And his own government destroyed him for it. This is the story of the most brilliant, most tragic genius you've never heard of. And it all started with a 19-year-old mathematics student who fell in love with the wrong person. Alan Matheson Turing was not born into greatness. He was born in 1912 in London, the son of a British civil servant stationed in India. His parents barely knew him. They left him with foster families and boarding schools. He was awkward, he was lonely, and he was so brilliantly intelligent that his teachers didn't know what to do with him. At Sherborne School, the headmaster wrote to his parents, "If he is to stay at a public school, he must aim at becoming educated. If he is to be solely a scientific specialist, he is wasting his time." The headmaster was wrong. Alan Turing wasn't wasting time. He was building a revolution in his mind. At school, they bullied him. His clothes were wrinkled. His handwriting was illegible. He had no interest in sports or social graces. But there was one boy who saw past all that. Christopher Morcom. Christopher was everything Alan wasn't. Charismatic, athletic, popular. But he shared Alan's passion for mathematics and science. They spent hours discussing astronomy, chemistry, and the nature of the universe. For the first time in his life, Alan Turing was not alone. He fell in love. Not the schoolboy friendship kind. Real love. Desperate, all-consuming love. But he never told Christopher. 1930. Alan is 17 years old. He's preparing for university entrance exams. Christopher is doing the same. They make plans to attend Cambridge together. Then, without warning, Christopher dies. Bovine tuberculosis. He contracted it from infected milk. Alan was devastated. He didn't eat. He didn't sleep. He walked the countryside alone, trying to understand how someone so alive could simply stop existing. He wrote to Christopher's mother, "I feel sure that I shall meet Christopher again somewhere, and that there will be work for us to do together." Christopher's death broke something in Alan Turing, but it also freed something. If life was finite, if intelligence could be snuffed out like a candle, then maybe, just maybe, it could also be recreated. Maybe the human mind wasn't magic. Maybe it was just a machine. 1936. Alan Turing is now 24 years old, a graduate student at Cambridge. He's working on a problem that has stumped the greatest mathematical minds of the century. The Entscheidungs problem, the decision problem. Here's what it means. Is there a mechanical process that can determine whether any mathematical statement is true or false? It was philosophy disguised as mathematics, and Alan Turing was about to answer it with a thought experiment that would change the world. He imagined a machine, not a real machine, just a concept, a device with an infinite paper tape divided into squares. The machine could read symbols, write new ones, and follow instructions. That's it. No gears, no circuits. Just a theoretical machine that could manipulate symbols according to rules. He called it an automatic machine. Today we call it the Turing Machine. And here's the genius part. Turing proved that this simple machine could perform any calculation that any human could perform. Addition, multiplication, playing chess, translating languages, everything. He had invented the concept of the universal computer before computers existed. The paper was published in 1936. It was 36 pages of dense mathematical proof. Only a small group of people read it. The world was focused on Hitler, on the Spanish Civil War, on economic depression. Alan Turing had just invented the theoretical foundation for every computer, every smartphone, every AI system you use today. And the world didn't notice. But one country did notice: Nazi Germany. By 1938, Hitler's war machine was rolling. The Wehrmacht was rearming. The Luftwaffe was growing. And the Nazis had something the Allies didn't: an unbreakable code. It was called Enigma. The Enigma machine looked like a typewriter in a wooden box, but it was a monster. Every time you pressed a key, it scrambled the letter through rotating wheels. The machine could be configured in 159 quintillion different ways. To put that in perspective, if you tried one setting every second, it would take you longer than the age of the universe to crack a single message. The Germans believed Enigma was mathematically unbreakable. They used it for everything: U-boat coordinates, battle plans, Hitler's personal orders. If the Allies couldn't read those messages, they would lose the war. September 1939. Britain declares war on Germany. Alan Turing receives a letter. It's from the government code and cipher school. They need mathematicians. The letter doesn't say why. It doesn't need to. Turing reports to a Victorian mansion in the countryside, 50 miles north of London, Bletchley Park. It was a secret facility hidden behind trees and barbed wire. The estate had been hastily converted into Britain's code-breaking headquarters. The accommodations were miserable. The food was terrible. The work was impossible. They gave Turing an intercepted German message. Rows and rows of random letters. No patterns, no structure, just chaos. "Break this," they said. Turing looked at the Enigma machine sitting on the table. He understood immediately. This wasn't a cryptography problem. It was a logic problem. And logic problems could be solved by machines. The Polish Cipher Bureau had made the first breakthrough before the war. They'd built a mechanical computer called the Bomba. But when the Germans upgraded Enigma, the Bomba became useless. Turing took the Polish design and supercharged it. He designed a new machine, an electromechanical computer that could test thousands of Enigma settings per hour. He called it the bomb. It was 6 feet tall, weighed a ton, and sounded like 1,000 knitting needles clicking at once. Inside were rotating drums, each one simulating an Enigma rotor. The machine worked on a principle Turing discovered. The Germans were human. Humans make mistakes. German radio operators would often use the same phrases. "Keine besonderen Ereignisse," nothing to report. Weather reports always started with Wetter. These were cribs, predictable pieces of text. If you knew a crib, you could narrow down the settings. The bomb would test settings until it found contradictions. When a setting survived all the tests, that was your answer. March 1940. The first bomb is installed at Bletchley Park. It hums to life. The drums spin. And for the first time, the Allies can read Hitler's mail. By 1941, Bletchley Park is breaking 3,000 messages per day. Turing's machines are tracking U-boats across the Atlantic. British convoys can now avoid German wolf packs. Ships that would have been sunk are arriving safely. Food reaches Britain. Soldiers reach the front. Winston Churchill later said, "It was thanks to Ultra that we won the war." Ultra was the code name for intelligence from broken Enigma messages. But Turing wasn't satisfied. The Enigma was yesterday's problem. The Germans had built something new, a cipher machine called Lorenz. It was used by Hitler himself for the highest level communications, and it was far more complex than Enigma. Before we get to how Turing cracked Hitler's personal code, quick question. Do you think AI will ever truly match human creativity? Or will there always be something machines can't replicate? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're enjoying these untold stories of geniuses who changed history, hit that subscribe button. We're a new channel looking to grow, and we've got more coming. Lorenz wasn't a rotor machine. It was a teleprinter cipher using 12 wheels. The mathematics were orders of magnitude harder than Enigma. Breaking a Lorenz message by hand would take weeks. By then, the intelligence would be worthless. Turing's colleague, Tommy Flowers, designed the solution. Not a mechanical computer, an electronic one. They called it Colossus. It used 2,500 vacuum tubes, the most ever assembled in a single machine. It could perform 5,000 calculations per second. When it was switched on in February 1944, it was the world's first programmable electronic digital computer. Not ENIAC, not the machines built in America after the war. Colossus, built in secret, and it worked. By D-Day, June 6, 1944, the Allies knew where every German division was positioned. They knew Hitler believed the invasion would come at Calais, not Normandy. They knew because Colossus had cracked Lorenz. Historians estimate that Turing's work shortened the war by 2 years. 2 years. That's 14 million lives saved. Soviet civilians who wouldn't starve. Jewish families who wouldn't be murdered. Allied soldiers who would come home. Alan Turing saved more lives than any general, any politician, any soldier. And for 30 years, nobody knew his name. 1945. The war is over. Alan Turing is 33 years old. He's invited to join the National Physical Laboratory in London. They want him to design a computer, not a code-breaking machine, a general-purpose computer. Turing proposes the automatic computing engine, ACE. It would store programs in memory, modify its own instructions, and perform calculations at unprecedented speeds. It was decades ahead of its time, but the NPL was slow, bureaucratic. They couldn't get funding. Turing grew frustrated. While he waited, he wrote a paper, Computing Machinery and Intelligence. Published in 1950, it asked a simple question: can machines think? Turing knew thinking was too vague, too philosophical, so he proposed a test. Put a human and a computer behind a screen. Have a person ask questions. If the person can't tell which is the human and which is the machine, then the machine is intelligent. Today we call it the Turing Test. It's the foundation of artificial intelligence research. Every chatbot, every voice assistant, every AI you interact with is chasing Turing's vision. But in 1950, the paper was dismissed as fantasy. The Times said it was too far-fetched. Turing was bitter. He'd saved millions of lives, invented the computer, and now he was being ignored again. He left the NPL and moved to the University of Manchester. They were building a real computer, the Manchester Mark I. Turing could finally write programs, test his theories, explore what machines could do. He was happy, for a little while. 1952. Alan Turing meets a young man named Arnold Murray. They begin a relationship. Remember, this is 1952. Homosexuality is illegal in Britain. Not just illegal, it's criminal, punishable by imprisonment or chemical castration. Turing didn't hide who he was. He never had. But society wasn't ready for Alan Turing. One night, Murray's acquaintance breaks into Turing's house and steals valuables. Turing reports the burglary to the police. During the investigation, Turing admits to his relationship with Murray. The police don't care about the burglary anymore. They arrest Turing for gross indecency. The trial is a nightmare. The man who cracked Enigma, who pioneered the earliest computers, who saved 14 million lives, is now a criminal. The newspapers mock him. His colleagues abandon him. He's stripped of his security clearance. He can no longer work on classified projects. The government he served betrays him. The judge gives him a choice: prison or chemical castration. Turing chooses the chemicals. For a year, he's injected with synthetic estrogen. It's supposed to suppress his urges. Instead, it destroys his body. He gains weight. He grows breasts. His brilliant mind, the mind that defeated Hitler, is fogged by hormones and humiliation. His friend Joan Clark, the woman he'd once been engaged to during the war, visited him. She said he seemed lost, defeated. June 8, 1954. Alan Turing's housekeeper finds him dead in his bed. Next to him is an apple, half eaten. A post-mortem finds cyanide poisoning. The official ruling is suicide. Turing had been conducting chemistry experiments at home. He had a jar of cyanide for gold plating. The apple was never tested. Some believe it was an accident. Turing was careless in his lab. Others believe it was suicide. The humiliation, the chemical castration, the loss of his work, it was too much. We'll never know for certain. What we do know is this: Alan Turing was 41 years old, and the world had killed him. For decades, Alan Turing was forgotten. His work at Bletchley Park remained classified until the 1970s. The Colossus machines were destroyed. The people who worked with him couldn't talk about it. When ENIAC was unveiled in America in 1946, it was called the first electronic computer. Turing, who had built Colossus 2 years earlier, said nothing. He couldn't. It wasn't until the 1970s that historians began piecing together what had happened at Bletchley Park. Books were published. Documentaries were made. Suddenly, the world learned the truth. The war hadn't been won by generals and tanks alone. It had been won by mathematicians with machines that clicked in the night. In 1999, Time magazine named Alan Turing one of the 100 most important people of the 20th century. In 2009, British Prime Minister Gordon Brown issued a formal apology. He said, "We're sorry, you deserve so much better." In 2013, Queen Elizabeth II granted Turing a posthumous royal pardon. In 2019, the Bank of England announced that Alan Turing would appear on the new £50 note. His face is now in the wallets of millions of Britons. Next to his portrait are images of the bomb, mathematical formulas, and binary code. But here's the thing: Turing didn't care about recognition. He cared about truth. He cared about what machines could do. And today, 70 years after his death, his vision is everywhere. Every time you use a computer, you're using a Turing machine. Every time you talk to Siri or Alexa or ChatGPT, you're interacting with an AI chasing the Turing Test. Every time a ship crosses the Atlantic safely, it's because of the work done at Bletchley Park. Alan Turing didn't just build a computer, he built the future. And he did it while being persecuted by the very country he saved. There's a statue of Alan Turing in Manchester, in Sackville Park. He's sitting on a bench, holding an apple. Tourists walk by, they take photos. Most of them don't know who he is. But if you sit down next to him, if you look at the bronze face, you can see it. The loneliness, the brilliance, the sadness. This was a man who could see the future, but couldn't find a place in the present. In 2014, the film The Imitation Game was released, starring Benedict Cumberbatch as Turing. It won an Oscar. It brought Turing's story to millions. But even Hollywood couldn't capture the full tragedy. Alan Turing was a genius who loved deeply, thought clearly, and suffered unjustly. His inventions saved millions during the war. His ideas created the digital age, and his own government destroyed him for loving the wrong person. Today in Silicon Valley, tech companies name conference rooms after him. AI researchers cite his papers. Computer scientists revere him as the founding father. But Alan Turing didn't want monuments. He wanted to know if machines could think. And now, in 2026, as AI language models write poetry, generate images, and pass the bar exam, we're finally answering his question. Yes, Alan, machines can think, and it's because of you. Alan Turing built the first computer, cracked Nazi Germany's codes, and laid the foundation for artificial intelligence. He saved 14 million lives, and his own country repaid him with chemical castration and oblivion. If this story moved you, if it made you think about the price of genius and the cost of prejudice, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment below and let me know. What part of Turing's story shocked you the most? Was it the persecution? The fact that Colossus came before ENIAC? The poisoned apple? We've got more untold stories coming. Engineers who changed the world and never got credit. Scientists who were silenced. Visionaries who were ahead of their time. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching. And remember, every time you open your laptop, every time you ask your phone a question, you're standing on the shoulders of a man who died alone with a poisoned apple. Alan Turing, the genius who built the future.